this on show on the road, if Assistant City Secretary will call the roll, and we'll start this work session.
Okay, Josh Altum.
Here.
Gary Mitchell.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Lee.
Here.
Linda Rhodes.
Here.
And Chad Wandell.
Here.
All right, so everybody's here. That's great. First item in the work session is discussion of the board appointments. And I think I'll try making a suggestion here. I would like for us to decide when is the date we could Zoom interview everybody. And the question I have for you is, do you want to Zoom all applicants, even the ones that are already on the boards? Or do you want to interview all the new applicants that you're not familiar with?
The second choice, interview all the applicants we're not familiar with.
I
All right.
agree.
Gary, your thoughts?
That's fine with me, sir.
All right, and Chad.
For the sake of speediness, the second option sounds good, but at the same time, logging in with existing members and just going, how's the chemistry on the board? What's it like on this board right now? Maybe we can get some insight into other areas of expertise that might be needed on that particular board. No preference really. But
Okay, Sandra? Sandra?
I'm with the rest of them. Number 2 sounds good with me, just the new ones.
Okay, so my suggestion is again, to read over the applications. We need to do this probably the first week in January so that we're ready to appoint at the January meeting. So if that's okay with everybody, we'll have the city secretary set up the interviews. And if there's somebody in particular you'd like to interview that's already on the board, let her know and we'll set up and we can get that interview done as well. But we'll interview certainly all the new people and get their feelings and preferences of what they'd like to do. Because we've got a lot of new people applying, which is great. That's a nice, refreshing thing. All right, then item number 2, any items requesting clarifications on the agenda? Is there anything on the regular agenda that anybody wants to have clarification now in the work session?
On the proposal to refinance that one debt,
Yes.
there's one line in there, and I don't have it in front of me, but I kind of made some notes. It says, assuming the rate stays the same. So in other words, I guess we're going to enter into it at a certain rate, but is it going to be a variable rate or is it fixed?
Lakita?
And Andrew Friedman here. I'm the financial advisor to the city with Samco Capital Markets. I'm happy to field that question. The refunding before you all this evening is at a fixed interest rate. It will not change. I'm not familiar with exactly what you're looking at that references interest rates if they were to stay the same, but this is locking in an interest rate that will not change.
Okay, that was my question because on the one of the pages that I read, it said assuming rates stay the same. So I was thinking that meant at the time of renewing it, and then it could change, but it will not change, correct? Once it's locked in.
It will not change.
Correct.
No, sir.
Yeah, because at the time, Councilman, at the time when we submitted that, we basically had an estimate of the savings that we will be realizing. And so now that all bids are in and everything, we know exactly what that rate will be. And
Okay.
so we'll present that tonight and that will not change.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about the bond refinancing from the council members?
I don't have anything about the bond, but I've got something about another item on that.
All right, let's go ahead.
And the ordinance is in regards to the signs over on Mistletoe. There's nothing in there where that states the exact times that will take place. For example, they're not allowed to park or whatever on the streets during the school times, or because the way this is coming across is that it's all the time. And so I don't know if that needs to be clarified before we make the signs and approve it.
Josh, I think that, we're going to hop into the regular session, and my suggestion is going to be that we postpone that item, but still let the people here that want to speak, because I think you made some good points there that we may have to go back and look at it again.
Oh, okay.
All right. So we'll exit the work session and we'll go into, we don't have anything for executive session. Is that right, Drew?
I think that's correct, yeah.
All right, then we'll move into the regular session. Make note that everybody that was here for the work session is here for the regular session. Next item is the Visitor Citizen Forum. Now, for those of you who want to speak on the mistletoe issue, just hang on a second. We're going to get to that here in probably about 5 minutes, and we'll talk about it then. But are there any citizens who are visitor and citizens that want to speak about an issue that's not on the agenda? Please raise your hand and we'll recognize you. Let's see, there's the mistletoe, mistletoe. Okay. All right. Seeing no one wishing to speak, reports and announcements, updates from the city council. Gary.
I don't really have anything to say except whoever, and I'm sure it's more than one person that puts this packet together for us. I just want to say thank you. It's very detailed and it helps me a lot to be able to get as much information as I can being new and to try to figure out and understand what's going on. So it's very detailed and I really want to say thank you for doing it the way they do it.
All right, great. Josh, or Santa Claus, Ginger Santa Claus.
Well, the first thing I want to do is remind everybody that tonight's our first night of staying around town. And then I want to give a big shout out to everybody that's been involved helping with that. Like Leslie, Chief, Melissa even helped out a little bit. So, you know, Leslie did an outstanding job with the graphics on that. I mean, she's super good. And, but I just want to let everybody know that tonight's the first night and it's super exciting. And I'm glad that we get to do that. And then the other day I sat at Walmart for the Salvation Army Mayor's Challenge and it got pretty chilly, but that's all I got.
All right. Linda.
Yeah, I just want to do a shout out to our frontline personnel, and you know, they're so important. Recently, some of you may have seen it in town. There was Denton County Chief Deputy Constable that passed away, Wayne Rhodes, and he was a relative of ours. And it's just, you know, this stuff is real, and just want to thank our frontline people and to reiterate, you know, to stay safe out there, and let's all have a Merry Christmas and a better 2021. And that's all I have.
All right, Chad Wandell.
First of all, Merry Christmas to everybody. It's that time of year, so a lot of people may be looking for ways to really inject the spirit of Christmas, the real spirit of Christmas, into other people's lives. And there's some great organizations that are out there to help do that. A lot of you know that I'm a big advocate against homelessness. So one of the charities that I work with a lot is whenwelove.org. They are what I would consider your frontline defense on making sure that the homeless people in our communities are fed and clothed, especially now that it's starting to get really cold. So if you have jackets or clothes or socks, any of that kind of stuff, please look into charities that help these groups and donate those. If that's not your cup of tea, then there's things out there like the angel trees. I know, I can't remember who has it up right now. I think it's over at Reds. There's an angel tree. I think there's 4 seniors, only 4 left on that tree. So we've almost got that tree completely taken care of. But tis the season for giving, and I know a lot of us have struggled this year, so it's harder than ever, which to me almost makes it a little more sweet because it takes a little more sacrifice to do it. So that's my soapbox.
All right, and then Sandra, it's your last meeting, so I'm giving you the last word here.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank Sarah Bishop Cotton for the work that she's doing with Kennedale New Senior Outreach. She's doing a wonderful job and she needs a lot of help. She needs donations. So I hope y'all will consider giving to her. Also, I want to thank the mayor for letting me participate in the Kennel Challenge. It was fun. We had a great time and we raised some money, some needed money. I just want to thank all y'all for everything y'all do for the city. Y'all are doing a wonderful job. I know you're not really appreciated a lot, but I just want to tell you how much we appreciate the job that y'all doing. And so it's been a pleasure working with y'all, and I hope y'all have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Sandra. And updates from me, I want to thank Josh and Sandra and Lori Middleton Sanders and others who came out and helped with the Mayor's Kettle Challenge. And I made sure I got there early to spend some time with my Mayor Pro Tem who's leaving us. I still remember a few years back, I ran into Sandra. We were both getting into a meeting, and Sandra says, "Brian, you're going to like me someday, and we're going to be friends." And she was absolutely right. I don't know if she remembers that, but she did tell me that when we were at a meeting together. So we're going to miss her, but she's off to being the constable, and she's going through the police academy. So we're all proud of Sandra. So next up is update from the city manager.
Mayor, I don't have much, but I did want to mention just one thing that, as the council is aware and the citizens are aware, we've been working for over a year.
Real quick, everybody that's watching, if you could please mute yourselves so we don't get that feedback.
We've been working for the last over a year with the city of Arlington and to get both our water service converted over to Arlington Water and our billing service over to the city of Arlington. We've had some struggles. We've had some issues with meter problems. And I just wanted to mention that in the next week or so, we'll be sending out some reports to council because we've got some good news about the fact that we're about to bring that all to fruition and get the customer billing transferred over to the city of Arlington. We're about to begin the process with TCEQ's approval of being able to actually purchase water from the city of Arlington. And hopefully there'll be some flyers and some information about that in the utility bills, both in this month and next month, as we hope to start that new billing process in January. So we'll get some more definite information out about it relatively soon to both the council and to the public. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Financial update.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The only really update that we have that's kind of out of the ordinary, I guess, would be our CARES expenditures. As you are aware, we did receive more than $420,000 from Tarrant County. And we had specific guidelines that we've been following, from the Treasury of how we can spend those funds and everything. And within your financial report for the month, on the last page towards the bottom, you will see where we stand to date. And that's where you will see those expenditures reported every month until we close out the CARES fund. But as of the end of November, we had spent in excess of $260,000. And we have purchased everything from sanitizing and PP&E and even attorney's fees and the security access system that the council authorized at our last meeting. We're working on that. So we're working very hard and very closely with Tarrant County and the Treasury and trying to ensure that we spend all of those funds. And then at the last meeting, George also talked about the public safety salaries, which we are able to charge that to CARES as well. So we're going to look at those peak times where police and fire were responding to the COVID crisis, and which they still are now. But we're going to go back and charge those appropriately and reduce that expenditure out of our general fund. So you'll see some changes coming that are positive for the city and that will result in a better fund balance for our general fund when we go in and reduce those expenditures, especially in police and fire. So just wanted to call your attention to that, and you can look at that every month. On that last page, you'll see a fund called Fund 35. It's the Disaster Recovery Fund, and it will show you what we are spending from month to month. And if at any time any council member wants any detail on any of that, feel free to contact me. And that's all I have.
All right, any questions for Lakita? All right, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. These are considered routine items that require no discussion. Does anybody wish anything to be removed from the consent agenda? Hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda with one correction to the regular minutes for November 17th, the call to order time.
All right,
It's okay.
you'll make note of that. Our Assistant City Secretary, Rosie. Second from Chad Wandell. Rosie, would you call the roll?
I'm sorry.
Would you call the roll?
Yes, Josh Altum. Josh Altum.
Yeah, he's showing up his green card. He's red and green. He's real Christmassy.
Oh, okay.
today.
I can't see anything, remember? Gary Mitchell,
He's got his green card.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Lee,
Yay.
Linda Rhodes,
Yay.
Chad Wendell.
Affirmative.
All right, that's approved. I'm going to take something out of order here because I know I have people waiting to speak on the mistletoe issue. So George, would you talk about item 2, ordinance, the ordinance amending section 22 to 48, the no parking zone? And would you unmute yourself too?
Sure, Mayor. Now, I'm learning. Yes, as the council will remember, back at your meeting in November, on November 17th, the council passed ordinance number 718, which was modified so that the city could repost school zone times around Arthur and Delaney particularly, and officially making mistletoe one way. That ordinance was passed primarily as a result of COVID-19 and various issues causing the school district to change school start times. And as we got into that discussion, we talked to residents in the neighborhood around those schools and found that the conflicting or the inconsistency of school zone times was creating some confusion on the part of residents and parents. And so that ordinance was adopted so that we could post school zone times consistent with the hours of operation of the schools and as those might change from time to time. But in the course of that, we also talked about, in addition to making mistletoe one way during certain hours of the day, that we would present an ordinance for council's consideration to disallow or to prohibit parking on either side of that street between Reeves and Paula. And the purpose and the thinking in doing that and having some discussion with residents in the area was that school buses coming out of the school on Mistletoe were having problems making turns. The street is narrow enough that it's very difficult to maintain traffic for parents picking up or letting students off and allowing residents in the area to go through, because there are not enough lane width there to do that. So the thinking was that if we remove the parking for that distance, those limits, Paula to Reeves, that it would facilitate traffic flow in that area. And the reason the ordinance that's before you was drafted such that it would prohibit parking at any time was really because, again, the thinking, whether it was logical or not, was that if people park there, say at 10:30 in the morning, but failed to remove their car from that parking area when the new school zone started, it would still be a hindrance to the flow of traffic, including buses coming out of the school and residents in the neighborhood. So the ordinance is written so that parking would be prohibited at any time, not just during the school zone hours. Residents have raised some very good questions about that, and I think you have that information in front of you. And so we actually have drafted an ordinance that would make the no parking apply only during school days and during the school hours that are posted on the sign, in the hope that that accidental leaving of cars parked there and creating a bottleneck might not occur, but it would be a first step. So council has some options, including adopting the ordinance that was originally sent to you and discussed in the last couple of meetings, or amending it so that it only applied, the no parking only applies on school days during school hours, the school zone hours, or clearly postponing the item and let us do some more thinking on it and get with additional residents and try to get the best solution for a problem that clearly is existing for both the residents and parents picking up and dropping off students. So that's kind of a summary of what's in your packet. There are some options that council has. And I don't think it's critical that council act on this tonight, particularly given the very good and logical arguments and rationale that have been raised by some of the residents since we went out and put door hangers to be sure everybody was aware of what was about to happen.
All right, well, I'm going to open a public hearing on this and first ask Christina Hipman to speak. If she'll just unmute herself. We got you.
Okay, well, I'm going to sound a little different than Christina Hipman because
Okay.
I'm Hipman. Sorry, I'm on her computer. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on this issue. And I think Mr. Campbell addressed many of my concerns, is that if this becomes a no parking zone at all times, then in the summer, at night, or holidays, anytime, we can't have guests come and park in front of our house. I mean, there's only 3 drivers at my house and we can usually fit in the driveway, but occasionally we need to park in the street and I don't want to end up getting a ticket for parking in the street. So some suggestions that I liked what Mr. Campbell said about it being just enforced during the school zone hours. I think that would be beneficial. That way it wouldn't take away all of the other times. And perhaps even issuing a permit for residents where my car is designated as I'm allowed to park here. This is my house. If we decide to make this a no parking zone, I thought it might also to consider, instead of that, if we were to maybe have an additional crossing guard to help with the students, or to enlist some additional Kennedale police during those times. Like I said, only before and after school, you've already have that permits, and then perhaps even putting in sidewalks to help with the safety for the students. But I think having it on all the time, or even from 8 to 5, is still a little extreme for those of us that live along this street. I think you might solve your safety issue, but then it also puts us in a bind as to where we can park and where our guests can park. So that's all I had to say about that.
All right, thank you, Dan. I think that's who we got here. All right, next up, Ed Williman.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. And I too like to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you all about this issue. My first concern, and I agree with Dan as well, this should be a consideration of done only during school hours. I live on Reeves, and I also agree that, you know, if you have guests, if you have gatherings, Thanksgiving, any holidays, things like that, you might have people parking on the curb. The primary thing is this. There's 3 people that drive in my household, and so I unfortunately drew the short straw, and I park on the curb right in front of my house. And you will know if the police or anybody notice, if you notice, there's people that do park, if they typically would work for a living. So therefore the cars are not there on a 24-hour basis. Now, if you want to, I'm willing to compromise. If you want to drive through the neighborhood or even through those 4 streets and even beyond, if you wanted to expand, I could tell you for a fact that there are cars that are parked there much longer than a week or 2 weeks, some with flat tires, some that are obviously not functioning, that stay on the curb. I see trailers that are parked on the sides of on the curb, on the side of the street, that take up room, that don't belong there. And that goes towards beautification of our community. Nobody wants to see broken down vehicles parked on the side of the road there, on the side of our streets, or trailers as such where they don't belong. You know, I just don't think it's fair to punish us that we legitimately use those curbs because there's no room in our driveway, but we're not there probably during school hours. You know, also the other thing is you have a driveway. I've driven by through there by that school. There's a big long U driveway. I don't understand why people can't, you know, if you can file the children out on a single file like they typically would, even when I was a child, they did that, and wait for the parent to pick them up. Why can't you have the parents pull their cars in a single file and kind of like a drive-through, come by, pick up your child, move on. Next one, come by, pick up your child, move on, and keep a steady pace going. This way it doesn't penalize or punish us that live on those streets and are not allowed to utilize the curb right in front of our homes as a parking space. You know, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Like I said, for the most part, I think you would find that by investigating those cars that sit on those curbs for longer than a week or 2 week period, that's sent there for possibly 30 days or longer, that would be something that would help perhaps fix this issue. And, you know, maybe cleaning that up might allow room, and also keeping those hours of school hours where you can, you know, you shouldn't be parking. I think between those two issues, I think you might find that you won't necessarily have to permanently keep us residents from parking on the curbs if there's more than, you know, 2 drivers in our households. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to say, is that I disagree with that, the order as far as keeping it permanently where none of us are allowed to park in front of our own homes. I very much disagree with that as a citizen here in Kennedale.
Thank you, Ed. Next up, Jonathan.
Yes, sir. I definitely agree with the first two, because it's not just a matter of the parking for gatherings and that, but in my circumstance, as I mentioned in the packet that I sent to y'all, in my circumstance, I am disabled. I have a van that has a ramp. There is only 2 places I can park. One is in the garage and one is on the curb. I have no other choice. I can't do a choice. That's why I made sure that you guys were aware that the trying to pass this would actually break the ADA and discrimination rules, and I would have to foresee any challenges that I would need to do, because I would have no access whatsoever to my house without being able to do that. I cannot get to my front door because it's not accessible. But on top of that, I wanted to make sure to mention on behalf of the owners of this property, part of the reason why in my document I said overkill. Now, of course, it did seem that it was addressed, but now they're talking about parking only during the school. Well, okay, I could kind of agree to that, but something that the other owners didn't mention yet, that I want to make sure to mention, is what about the contractors? I have plumbers come in, I have electricians come in, they have big trucks. They can't fit in my driveway. And then you're talking the people that come to service my medical equipment. They have to be able to get my chair, get my body lift, whatever they're going to work on. They take it out my back door, my utility door in the driveway. They go down the driveway because, again, it's not accessible by the front door. So, I mean, to me, my main thing is I understand the issue. Don't get me wrong. I've lived here 22 years. I definitely am dead center of what you're talking about, because I live smack across from the new expansion of the school. But to me, as I've said to my wife, I'm willing, because in my life I have to adapt and I have to change things every day because of my disability. But at the same time, you're talking a permanent versus an inconvenience. huge difference. And so if you was to turn and try to take away my parking on the side, now for me, I have a different challenge because of ADA, but this part I'm saying in respect to the other owners, and I'm sure they feel the same I do, is I pay or paid for this house just like anybody else. I'm paying the same amount of high taxes to have the rights and access to my property, and they're talking about wanting to remove that access. Now, in the packet I sent you, there's also an option that can allow the buses more room. Because on a normal day, there are 3 lanes that come through that mistletoe. And on the south and north is parked. In the middle, it moves. Now, you could easily put the no park zone on the north side, which is where the school is, where people shouldn't be parking anyway. But if you put the zone there, you would now eliminate that whole 1 lane. So now you would have 2 open lanes, not 1, which would be plenty of room for the school bus. And I only say that because I actually sit on my driveway a couple of days and I watch that happen. And so I know that they can do that. But the other reason why I feel that they just need to think about it is I would feel worse also for the neighborhood, because in the packet I use the analogy of ants and water. If you pour water in the middle of the ants to clear out the school zone, you're not getting rid of the ants. You're pushing the ants outward. So now, instead of containing the headaches on mistletoe, where all of us that live on mistletoe, we know the school is going to have an issue. We know that specific times, hey, avoid it or make plans around it. We know it exists. But now, if you was to make it where they cannot park, you are now pushing the congestion outwards. You would push it to Crestview. You would push it to Ruth. Now, all of a sudden, instead of having 12 houses infected, you're now going to have 50 houses infected, and which I would be concerned about because, as mentioned before, there are no sidewalks. I already have 30 to 40 people passing through my yard all the time, which that part doesn't bother me. What bothers me is there are a lot that will play in my yard while waiting for their parents, and during the playing, they do destruction to my property. That bothers me, and now you're wanting to possibly push the issue outwards, which means that other people might face the financial issues that I face because of that situation.
All right, Jonathan, I'm going to have to stop you right there.
That's it.
Thank you very much. We'll review your packet. I'll let you know we are working on sidewalks for that area with the Safe Route to Schools. So I think I have 2 more speakers, and I deliberately left the firefighters last. So take that, firefighters. Sorry about that. So we'll do Kelly Turner first.
Well, I think he made several of the points that I would like to make as well. Let me add just this one thing. Citizens want to be engaged when there's changes that directly affect them. We appreciate y'all sending out the notices that you did. I would just encourage the mayor and the council to find some time, if they're able to table this tonight, to allow us to sit down with the council and have a discussion that come up with some better solutions. The growth of the school district has created problems for them that they may need some help on, and that's great that we can help. But we don't need to infringe on the rights of those citizens that live up and down Mistletoe and in the rest of that neighborhood or around other schools. So I just encourage the council to table this tonight, and then maybe have some open house talks with some of the citizens that live up and down that street so that we can all get on the same page.
Thank you, Kelly. And then last but not least, the man wearing a tree hat, David Green.
Actually, that is our outside Christmas tree that's inside because of the weather. All right. My name is David Green. I live at 201 West Mistletoe. here in Kennedale. And I'm speaking also in regards to the notice we received on our door about the possible ordinance for no parking, stopping, or standing at all times on Mistletoe. And I think that's kind of where where our hang up is that it's the term all times. That's where everybody's having their difficulty with this. I don't happen all the time, but I do have people over to the house, and that would cause them to park in the street. So George, I know you've already addressed some of these issues, and I appreciate that. And council, I appreciate you giving us the time to be able to do this, and you too, Mr. Mayor. But we address the what has caused the problem. What has changed over time. For the neighbors that I've talked to, we understand safety for students, but why use the term at all times? Why use that? The street is already one way, which we've addressed during school release times. So does this mean that summer times and holidays, does this ordinance still apply there? So what is not working with the current measures for the one way? George, you've addressed some of this stuff too as well. Again, safety, concerns, I understand, but where is this growing concern? And I'm glad you talked about sidewalks because, hey, I'm all about sidewalks when it comes to the safety stuff, even in our neighborhood. I think that's a great thing. You'll get my support for that. I can tell you that right now. But there are consequences for the decision, and I can tell you, I've made some pretty poor decisions in my life, and some of them sitting in the seats that that you're sitting in not right now, but in the council chambers. I'll admit to that. There's some times we make poor decisions. There are some consequences that come with some of the decisions that we make. So like I was approached about speed bumps on Mistletoe by a couple of my neighbors. And I would support them, but that would eliminate the drag strip that we have up and down Mistletoe for sure with speed bumps. But I explained that would also eliminate the speeding, but it would also slow our response times from fire and police. So to our houses, because emergency vehicles have to have the bumps too as well. So what's the consequences for this possibility of all times? What's the consequences for that? Well, somebody already addressed this too as well. You're going to have crowded feeder streets on Reeves, Timberline, Crestview that also have traffic from Delaney during school hours. So the traffic's going to be there as well. So if this is an ISD issue, why go all the way to Paula? The orange cone seems to work during the dismissal and arrival time. I know it's inconvenience because somebody's got to pick them up and put them down all the time, but it's working. My family has lived here for 25 years, and we live with the inconvenience for the one way. We live with that. That's just something that we deal with. But once again, what is the continual concern about this? Council, Mayor, City Manager, thank you for your time, and y'all have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. And I think that's everybody who's wishing to speak. So I would like to entertain a motion to postpone this so we can get some more information and some feedback from the citizens.
Can I say something about it?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Mr. Turner and Mr. Green both had excellent points as far as there's cones already out there and meeting with the neighbors and discussing in a group and seeing what they want. I think those were both great points because I've never really talked about the issue, but my son goes to that school and there's three types of students there. You have the bus students, you have the students that get picked up by their parents in the car line, and then you have the walkers. The issue is, I've never seen an issue with Mistletoe. The issue is Crestview and Reeves with cars backing up on the stop sign because those walkers are going over there getting in their parents' vehicle. So, and the cones do an outstanding job. It keeps people from parking on Mistletoe. I've never seen an issue with Mistletoe. It's like I said, it's Reeves and Crestview that's backing up. Sometimes when I pick them up and I leave the school, I can't even hang a left because Reeves is so backed up. It's so congested with cars waiting for their kids. So, that being said, like Mr. Turner said, I think we need to get up with the citizens or the neighbors right there, have a good meeting and talk about what a good solution might be. So
Are you making a motion, Josh?
I'll make a motion to postpone this item.
I'd like to say one more thing, if I could, please.
Well, can we get a second and then move on to discussion? Who said that, by the way?
Fossman, Ed Fossman.
No, I'm sorry. We're going to move on, but because we've done the public hearing, but please send us an email so we can read about it. We appreciate it. And we'll try to set up a meeting too as well. So do I have a second?
I'll say,
I got a second from Gary. Any further discussion among the council about this issue? Again, all you citizens who let us know, we will be getting in touch with you or send us some emails and give us your input. All right.
Yeah, I would
ahead.
just like to add
go ahead.
that when we set up a meeting with the citizens there that live in this area, because I'm one of them, I live 4 houses down from the schools. I think there should be a school rep involved in this as well to tell us what the actual complaints are, rather than just, well, let's make some changes. Well, why? What are we actually making the changes for? Is it the buses? Is it the school kids walking? Is there really a problem with people parking? What's the real core issue? Otherwise, we're just throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what sticks. So I think that would help, because like I said, the last couple of weeks, I've been watching the buses, and in the last 3 weeks, 2 of the buses out of all those buses, they're turning left when they're not supposed to go the wrong way down the one way. So what's going on? I mean, it seems like everything is messed up and going crazy there. So if we can get some clarification on what is supposed to be the real process, that way we can figure out, well, does it make more sense to make these buses go left out of there? Since I've also noticed that most of the other buses, they turn right, they go to Paula, they hook a left, they go back, they come back to Reeves, and they head out to some left. So they're trying to go the other direction anyway. So maybe the flow's backwards. I don't know, but it's something I think we should all sit down and look at.
Well, Gary, but hang on just a second. I think George
Yeah, no
wanted to respond to that.
Yeah.
No, Mayor, my only comment was I agree with Chad and was going to suggest, I think if we could have a meeting with neighborhood representatives and include the school district, obviously, I think they could bring forth maybe some solutions in addition to issues that we all need to address in the course of this. So if we can schedule various meetings, but include the school district, I think it would be very helpful. The primary thing that they did that was driving this initial discussion was changes in the school hours. Then as we started looking at that, we saw other operational problems that we thought we might try to address. But I think the school district could be a big addition to the solution. So we would plan to do that.
Gary?
All I wanted to say was I wanted to thank everybody for coming and speaking out on this issue, because I don't think any of us were in favor of at all times, David. That's for certain. I know I wasn't. And I don't know what the solution is down there. I know there is a problem from what I've heard. But if you didn't come and speak out, if you guys didn't come and speak out, we would maybe do the wrong thing. And we don't want to do the wrong thing, because that would certainly inconvenience the ones that live there. And that's a big concern for me. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other discussion? If not, Rosie, would you call the vote?
Okay. Josh Altum,
Yay.
Gary Mitchell,
Yay.
Mayor Pro Tem Lee,
Yay.
Linda Rhodes,
Yay.
Chad Wendell.
Affirmative.
All right. Well, thank everybody for coming for that item. And we're going to move on to item number 1. And we'll make sure we get a hold of everybody and follow up on this. Item number 1 is consider appointment of a mayor pro tem, since Sandra is leaving us. As you know, the mayor pro tem's primary duty is to take over when the mayor's not here. So I'll open up nominations for mayor pro tem. Okay, don't everybody rush to the job at one time. Anybody?
Mr. Mayor, I would make a nomination for Chad Wandell.
All right, I have a motion for Chad Wandell. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Do I have any other nominations? Then I will entertain a vote or a motion to appoint Chad Wandell as mayor pro tem. Oh, we already have a motion. Sorry, second. Rosie, give me the roll call for the vote.
Okay. Josh Altum,
Yes.
Gary Mitchell,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lee,
Yes.
Linda Rhodes,
Yes.
Chad Wendell.
I'll abstain.
All right. Thank you for your service, Sandra, and congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem Chad Wondell.
All right.
All right. Last
No
item we
question.
have here is the item on consider an ordinance authorizing the issuance, sale, and delivery of approximately 1.555 million in bonds. George, Lakita, who wants to take that up for us?
Mayor, let me let Lakita introduce this topic, please, and then call on Andrew. Lakita.
Mayor and Council, we are pleased this evening to bring you the opportunity to complete the refunding that we originally talked to you about back in October. We had identified one of our outstanding debt obligations, particularly our 2011 certificates of obligation from our general debt service that was eligible for this particular refunding. And when we originally presented it, we thought that we would be able to look at approximately $170,000 worth of savings over the next 10 years. And we've gotten, I believe, even better than that. We've gotten quite a few bids in today. And Andrew from Samco Capital is here to speak to you about those bids and the winning bid, if you will entertain that, and kind of talk to you about what those specific savings and specific interest rate will be on that new debt over the next 10 years. So if there are any questions for me, I'd like to introduce Andrew to take over and explain these this refunding to the council.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Andrew Friedman here. I'm trying to share my screen here, so hopefully you all see a presentation in green. The final bond refunding results for the bids that we received, as Ms. Sutton just referenced. Let's see. Can you all see that presentation? We went out to the market through a private placement, just as we did on our last bond refunding that we did earlier in this year. We received 5 bids. The best bid came from Alliance Bank at an interest rate of 1.22%. You may recall from the refinancing we went through earlier this year, very similar in terms of the length that we were going out to 2030. We locked in an interest rate at that time, 1.93%. So it's a testament to how low interest rates have really sunk in response to the ongoing pandemic. And the silver lining, of course, is that we're getting to refinance these 2011 COs at a lower interest rate than we were even anticipating. So very pleased with the result. Alliance Bank coming in at 1.22%. You can see the other 4 bidders, interest rates ranging from 1.38% to 1.49%. This next page is a summary of that refunding. Starting at the top, we're refunding the certificates of obligation series 2011, $1,515,000 worth of bonds at a 4% coupon. Final maturity of those bonds that are outstanding currently is 2031. So then going to this refunding, bottom left table, the prior debt service is the debt service on that $1,515,000 in COs if they remain outstanding. Column to the right of that, the refunding debt service, is the new debt service that would replace the 2011 based on that winning interest rate of 1.22%. The difference between the prior debt service and the refunding debt service is your annual savings. So this is the savings that save roughly $20,000 a year through 2031, locking in a total savings of $202,364. And that's based on a fixed interest rate. That savings will not change. The interest rate will not change between now and when they finally mature in 2031. The table to the right went back for reference sake to the preliminary refunding results we were considering back in October. Assumed we might be able to lock in an interest rate of 1.4%, which would generate a savings of $171,000. You can see we're locking in an interest rate of 1.22, which generates a savings of 202,000 and change. So very, very pleased with the result of the bidding today. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have, but that is my spiel for this evening. If you all pass this, we will close on December 30th, just before the end of the year.
Okay, if you'll just stop the screen share for now. And I'll ask, does anyone have any questions? If not, I believe this ordinance is ordinance 720. Is that correct, Lakita? I'll entertain a motion on ordinance 720.
Mayor, I move we approve ordinance 720 for the refunding of the bonds.
All right, motion made by Chad. Second, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Josh. Any further discussion?
Just want to say thank you again for looking out for new ways for us to save some money, and that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, I agree. Good job, guys. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so Rosie, would you call the vote?
Josh Altum,
Yes.
Gary Mitchell,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lee,
Yeah, yes.
Linda Rhodes,
Yes.
Chad Wendell.
Affirmative.
All right, motion passed unanimously. So the last thing we have is a motion to adjourn. I just want to say Merry Christmas, everybody. And as Linda said, stay safe out there. It's still a little bit dangerous. We're still peaking, so stay safe. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
A motion from Linda,
Second.
second from Chad. Rosie, would you call the roll one last time for this year?
For this year, okay. Josh Altum,
Affirmative.
Gary Mitchell,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lee for the last time,
Yes.
Linda Rhodes,
Yes.
Chad Wendell.
Affirmative.
Merry Christmas.
There
Merry
you go.
Christmas, everybody.
We're adjourned.